Joining us tonight in just a bit will be Dr. Sudhanshu Trivedi, Member of Parliament and National Spokesperson of the BJP, Ishkaran Bhandari, Advocate Zeenat Shaukat Ali, Islamic scholar, Advocate Nilofer, Member of the National Conference, Dr. T.A. Rahmani, President of the MPCI, Vivek Srivastava, Political Analyst. But my first question goes to Zeenat Shaukat Ali. And Zeenat Shaukat Ali, I want to ask you if Al-Zawahiri is beginning to provoke people in India to rise up and find issues like the hijab. Are we seeing exactly the fears of the Karnataka High Court, which was stated in the judgment of an unseen hand, coming absolutely real and in front of us for all of us to see?
Thank you, Navika, for inviting me to your show. I think very, very unfortunately, this intervention by somebody like Mrs. Zawahiri from Al-Qaeda is absolutely unacceptable. And, the only thing that I can understand is that, there is a lot of misinformation that he is pumping in to create unrest. And I think that, whether he's the unseen hand or the real hand, I really cannot, predict. But this much I can say, that whatever he has done and whatever he is saying and the manner in which he is going about, first of all, this is our internal affair. We are a secular democratic republic. We are getting to be a superpower. We don't want interventions from people like him and his organization, which have been deemed to be, which have been deemed by even, the higher powers to be, a terrorist organizations. Now, this kind of statements coming from him are, have to be completely rejected. And I think the High Court, and this you see, and sadly, this information that has been somehow generated, that there's a blanket ban on hijab. This itself, his statement is incorrect. Because in a secular democratic republic like India, women can dress as they choose. They can dress as they wish to dress. But this was a uniform for a school which came in the middle of nowhere, and the matter was taken to court. And then after the court passed the judgment, there were threats on the judges, and there were bans declared, despite the matter having gone to Supreme Court, are not actions that can be spoken of with any kind of kindness. These actions themselves, have to be rejected. So here, the Al-Qaeda chief coming out and making statements of this kind is only to provoke. It is to create unrest among the young people, to create misgivings in the minds of people. And, I don't
but
think
Zeenat Shaukat Ali, the question here is that have young people in India given him or given people the impression that they are easily provoked? That is a question that we will have to introspect on. Because, as you said, this hijab issue came out of nowhere, blew out of proportion in the middle of a school term, when there wasn't any genesis of this problem happening in that university, and then it just spread like wildfire from one state to another. So do you think we have shown that we have become a kind of a cesspool where we are waiting to fan such fires within our country?
You see, unfortunately, this issue also became very political, Navika ji. It became very, very political, and it has been blown out of proportion politically also. So many other issues jumped in, and so there was a lot of confusion. But I have hope in the youth of our country that they will not be, not be taken in, or not be cajoled, or not be, influenced by, such kind of thoughts and such kind of words coming from a person who himself has absolutely no credentials to say things. So, I think that, the youth of our country is not infested as of now, but one has to be very careful that the information that has been given and which has to be countered, and any kind of political hand in extremism from wherever it comes, Navika ji, has to be completely restrained. That is my opinion.
So I want to ask Advocate Nilofer, Nilofarji, do you think today Al-Zawahiri and his statement should come as a warning bell to those who have picked up issues like hijab, who have gone against Article 370, who have gone against CAA? The question is that are we playing into the hands of an international toolkit which is just waiting to be used, because we're seeing the same objections and the same vein, these protests that reflect what Al-Zawahiri and terrorist outfits like his would want to see: strife within India?
Navika, well, I think any controversy which pertains to our people and which has arisen within the four corners of our country is purely the domain of our country. And no one has got any right, be it foreign outfit or any radical organization, to speak about it. We have full faith in our country and there may be grievances within. But that never means it gives any license to any such outfit to talk about our internal affairs. So there may be hijab controversy, but we have full faith in our constitution. We have full faith in our judiciary that the verdict will come.
We have a hijab controversy. Why does it come in the middle of a school session out of nowhere? Isn't it a question we need to introspect on?
We need to introspect. However, there is a word of cautious for each one of us to think about that. Why should we provide opportunities to such outfits who are waiting outside for such thing to happen in our country so that they can...
Where was the introspection before today? Where has been the introspection? The judge who gives the order is under threat. The judge who gives the order is under threat. The issue which spreads from Karnataka to other states becomes a part of the mainstream, with everybody jumping in. If you look at it from social media, from Rahul Gandhi to Priyanka Gandhi to Asaduddin Owaisi, everybody jumping into it. Do you think we are giving opportunities because we are creating hysteria on issues which really should be held?
Navika, what I believe is that it is high time to get one and not to allow such controversies to arise in our country. Because of the reason there have been series of controversies while in minority, especially the Muslims, have been targeted. We have seen that there was hijab controversy. Prior to it, we have seen so many controversies like Shah Bano's controversy, then Halala, then Triple Talaq, then Babri Masjid issue, and now we have meat issue. So once you are targeting a particular community, there are such outfits who are waiting outside for such things, who just want to give vent to their criminal designs. So it's high time for
Sudhanshu Trivedi ji, it is the BJP's fault that so many issues are coming up against Muslims and therefore the community as a whole find itself targeted. Respond to Advocate Nilofar.
Navika ji, this single incident has given a clear categorical view that the Islamic fundamentalism is a global problem, and those who are trying to attribute it towards the recent political situation in India are trying to hide a mountain behind the mole. Because when Ayman Al-Zawahiri, you know Ayman Al-Zawahiri's autobiography.
Nilofarji, allow him to make his point.
Madam, you have a reference, given a reference. Can I speak?
Yeah, then you can respond.
Nilofarji has given a reference of Shah Bano case. Shah Bano case, and she is saying that one community was targeted. I would like to say with full conviction that India was the only secular country in the entire world which was having Sharia as a part of the constitution by the constitutional amendment in the Shah Bano case. So in a way it was a partial Muslim country. Otherwise, I challenge anybody sitting on the panel, can they show any secular country in the world in which the provisions of Sharia were having the constitutional endorsement? This was a problem. Now coming to Ayman Al-Zawahiri. You know how Ayman Al-Zawahiri entered into Al-Qaeda? There was a professor of Cairo University who was the founder of Islamic Brotherhood in the 60s. He was hanged subsequently by the Egyptian government. And when he was hanged, Ayman Al-Zawahiri was 11 years of age. मैडम, एट द टाइम देयर वाज नो बीजेपी, नो आरएसएस, नथिंग. कुछ इंडिया की पॉलिटिक्स में हम थे ही नहीं भाई. 50-60 की बात कर रहे हैं. एंड जवाहिरी हिमसेल्फ सेड दैट ही वाज इंस्पायर्ड बाय द थिंकिंग ऑफ द मुस्लिम ब्रदरहुड. उस समय कौन सा परसिक्यूशन था मुस्लिम्स का 50-60 में? दैट टू इन द कंट्री ऑफ इजिप्ट. So this shows that there was a fundamentalist ideology way before decades, which is going on, pervading all the countries of the entire world. And those who are trying to do these things, taking an alibi of the any situation or incidents inside, are trying to do a gross injustice, and not just gross injustice to the truth, but also a severe threat to the security of the country.
Vivek Srivastava, it's something that all of us need to really think about. वैसे तो हम बहुत liberal हैं, we should be liberal, but when it comes to hijab, we all begin to see the familiar voices coming in and saying no, hijab should be allowed.
Give me 30
what happened to
seconds,
liberalism in the matter of hijab?
Sure. Yes, please give me 30 seconds. Yes. Give me 30 seconds and I want to counter Sudhanshu Trivedi ji. Number one, इनसे कोई भी discussion करेंगे, he will go back to Shahbano case. He has nothing else to speak. And then he is discussing Al-Zawahiri. He is not discussing his effect on the Indian Muslim youth.
अरे भैया, मैंने नहीं बोला, नीलोफर जी ने बोला.
Corporation BJP mayor says in Navratras, sir आप सुनने जाइए पहले, सर सुनिए पहले आप. साउथ दिल्ली म्युनिसिपल कॉर्पोरेशन के मेयर कहते हैं इन नवरात्रा.
अरे आप गलत सुन गए, इसलिए मैंने बोला. आई हैव नॉट ब्रॉट द शाबानो केस.
किसने गिराई? सुनिए पहले. बाबरी मस्जिद किसने गिराई? नोबडी नोस. बाबरी मस्जिद वैनिश्ड इन एयर. देयर आर नो अक्यूज्ड. नोबडी डिस्ट्रॉयड द बाबरी मस्जिद. Nobody knows who climbed the mosque in Ashok Nagar in Delhi and here 2 years back broke it and वहां पे भगवा फहराया गया. People are marching with bhagwa to various masjids. You are making the Muslim youth realize that this is not their nation. You are making them an easy victim to the advertising and propaganda of terrorist outfits. You are doing it. You are not making the people comfortable of a particular community.
I want to ask you, there are so many schemes. I want to ask you, when the Prime Minister says Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, what does he say? And can I read out some of the schemes that have been put out by this government? And these schemes, whether it is the Ayushman Bharat, whether it is Kisan Samman Nidhi, whether it is whether it is any scheme to do with the PM Awas Yojana, Ujjwala Yojana, the beneficiaries. Sir, no. You please counter, but first allow me to give the facts. 20% minorities in this country, but the share of minorities in these schemes is ranging between 33% to 40%. Why do you deny that? Why don't you notice that fact, Vivek Srivastava? Because they don't suit you?
Because no, it suits me. But Muslims are not second-rate citizens. जिनको आप भीख फेंकेंगे. They are equal partners in progress as any other community, which is what the BJP is not successful in telling them. Every masjid is being broken. गुड़गांव में जाके आप कह रहे हैं open नमाज नहीं होगी. On those places where permission has been given. और वहां कपिल मिश्रा जाकर के हनुमान चालीसा पढ़ के आते हैं. This is the culture of the nation. Bhagwadari youth, they are going to every masjid and threatening.
So Sudhanshu Trivedi ji, Al-Zawahiri is not alone. Vivek Srivastava shares the thoughts of Al-Zawahiri.
Yes.
Yes? And he is proud of it.
Vivek Srivastava's thoughts are very
I don't
peculiar.
share his thoughts.
He is from the Communist Party.
I don't share his thoughts.
Which says that the religion is an opium. But having such a penchant for mosque,
Yes,
I am unable to understand. भाई धर्म एक अफीम है और मस्जिद के लिए क्या दिल धड़क रहा है. तो विवेक श्रीवास्तव जी, अरे आप एक बाबरी मस्जिद की बात कर रहे हैं. कम्युनिस्ट कंट्रीज में बाय गवर्नमेंट ऑर्डर तोप लगा के मस्जिदें उड़ाई गई हैं. स्टालिन माओ सबने उड़ाई है. I challenge you. You got a single communist country जिसमें तोप लगा लगा के मस्जिद में उड़ाई गई हो। क्या बात करते हो भाई, मस्जिदों की बात करने लगे, तोप लगा के गवर्नमेंट ऑर्डर से मस्जिदों को डिस्ट्रॉय करने वाले यहाँ आकर कहने लगते हैं कि मस्जिदों की बात।
No, do you agree that
मुझे जवाब दीजिए ना, यहाँ कहिए कम्युनिस्ट पार्टी को रिप्रेजेंट नहीं करते। When religion is opium, who are you to talk
आप
about
नॉन वेजिटेरियन फूड नवरात्रों में बैन करने के फेवर में है या नहीं?
विवेक श्रीवास्तव, on this debate, Mr. Vivek Srivastava, on this debate, we don't speak over each other. Anybody who speaks over another panelist, his fader will be lowered. आपको बोलना है, आप काउंटर करिए, मैं टाइम दूंगी, लेकिन एक दूसरे के ऊपर मत बोलिए. Yes, Sudhanshu ji.
Yes. When Communist Party officially says that religion is an opium, it is to be discarded, then he has no right to talk whether about the Navratra or the Namaz. But still he is showing so much penchant for the masjid. So I challenge you, if he quote a single communist party, communist country, जिसमें तोप लगा के मस्जिदें ना उड़ाई गई हो. Second thing, or anybody sitting on the panel can tell me any Muslim country in which the Communist Party is allowed to work. अरे पूरी दुनिया में आपस में लड़ाई है, जैसे सांप नेवले की लड़ाई होती है, और हिंदुस्तान ने बड़ी दिल मिलाई है. That shows the sheer hypocrisy in their character, the sheer hypocrisy of their ideology. Now you say.
There is no question of hypocrisy. Sir, I am talking about the Indian Constitution framed by Ambedkar ji, which says all of us, whatever be the caste and religion, we are all equal. That the basic ethos of the constitutions are not being followed. Muslim youth today do not feel that they are equal as citizens to their Hindu counterparts, and the BJP is responsible for it. I don't believe in mandirs and masjids, but however, if a particular religious ideology having a Bhagwa flag in the hand, wants riots, wants to break religious structures, creates unrest, are you in favor of actually, stopping all the non-vegetarian shops, all the dhabas, all the hotels in the time of Navratras only for what? For what do you want to do it?
Considering that you are talking about B.R. Ambedkar, the man who's the author of Indian Constitution, can I tell you his views? Can I tell you his views on hijab? B.R. Ambedkar on Muslim women in burqas said they lag behind their sisters from other communities, cannot take part in any outdoor activity, and are weighed down by a slavish mentality and an inferiority complex. This is what he said about hijab. And today, you are endorsing Ambedkar. Right. Then why don't you endorse this? Because it doesn't suit you. Because you are falling into the trap of jihad that Zawahiri wants to lay down. And that is the question I want to ask Ishkaran Bhandari. Ishkaran, Ambedkar ke naam par kasme khane wale, they don't know what Ambedkar really said about hijab and parda. And he said Muslim women lag behind. Don't put them under the weight of this slavery that happens through the parda, through the burqa. How come Mr. Vivek Srivastava, who is today remembering Dr. Ambedkar so much, forgets the main thing that Dr. Ambedkar said about the burqa?
Navika, an electorate has reduced communists to the dustbin of history. We would rather discuss the real threat, what the Al-Qaeda guy spoke. And it is important. Was he fishing in troubled waters? He saw an incident and then he was fishing in it? Or was that incident itself created by Al-Qaeda, ISIS, Boko Haram type of people? This is very important because suddenly a Shaheen Bagh erupts. Suddenly a hijab row erupts, which had heretofore not erupted. So the bigger question is, was it created by these forces? And probably the government will investigate. Thankfully, it did not devolve into the riots which happened after Shaheen Bagh. The law and order was maintained. But this investigation, I believe, is extremely necessary. Now coming to the second point, the choice before India is very clear. You follow the constitution, you follow democracy, you listen to the words of Ambedkar and you go for women empowerment and women education, or you do actions which get support from Al-Qaeda's, ISIS's, Boko Harams of the world, whose views on women, documented history of sex slavery, beating, stoning is all documented. That is the choice facing India, that do you go for education or views which get supported by these people? And lastly, one big challenge we have to see in India is this. People sitting in India, these institutions, I don't want to use these terrorist organizations, use internet, use the technology to incite people to join them. That is also documented over the last 20 years. People who are supporting this, people who are justifying this are doing nothing but terrorist propaganda, and they should not be allowed to speak on TV.
Dr. Rahmani, the fact that the campus front of India was behind this whole hijab jihad, the fact that it came out of nowhere and just escalated into a huge issue with liberals coming out and campaigning for the hijab to come back. Do you think it was part of an experiment to spread hatred, to spread strife in India?
See, I don't know who is behind, but as far as this ban, Ayman Al-Zawahiri is concerned, I can send you my own keynote address I presented in a national conference attended by all the tallest Muslim organizations and their leaders in the country, terrorism and jihad, the Islamic perspective, where we have condemned and declared Osama bin Laden, the mentor of this man, Ayman Al-Zawahiri, that he is a terrorist, and fortunately this country, particularly the Muslim community of this country, did not oblige and buy the idea of this Al-Qaeda outfit, and we rejected it for last 20 years. Our Home Minister Sudhanshuji is sitting over here. Mr. Rajnath Singh has very admitted inside the Parliament House that the Indian Muslim did not endorse the Al-Qaeda or such kind of any organization. Furthermore, we have enough inside our own motherland which we have to counter with, like Hindu Yuva Vahini, like Hindu Sanatan Sansthan, like Abhinav Bharat, Bajrang Dal, and so many other, and so many individuals like Yati Narasimhanand, etc., like that of Ayman Al-Zawahiri, who was spitting venom against the communities and civil society each day in and out. So we are enough to counter them. We don't need to buy anybody from outside. We condemn, we do not address, and we keep ourselves aloof from such kind of people. Within the four corners, as the Nilofer said, of our country, we are enough to deal with the situation arising out of any circumstances. We are governed by our constitution, and that is enough for us. As far as Ambedkarji's quote is concerned, I think he has been proved wrong in the modern times, where so many hijab women has proved.
But then why is it a Shaheen Bagh happens? Why is it that CAA comes up and begins to completely haunt an entire community when it is meant for persecuted Hindus coming from neighboring countries? Why do these issues go out of hand? Why do people fall prey to this kind of propaganda? Dr. Rahmani, there is a need for all of us to introspect that. Why are we becoming part of a toolkit?
Navika, we are living in a functional democracy where everybody has a right to dissent. The government has an obligation to frame the rules, laws, and enact the other laws for the country. And everybody in the country has an open right to dissent with those laws which has been enacted by any government, be it the Congress or BJP or anybody. So using that right, there was Shaheen Bagh, there was anti-CA protest, but that cannot be the anti-national protest.
Is this just a right to dissent?
Forces are trying to
have the recent protests been just a right to dissent?
Navika ji, two short points. Firstly, Shaheen Bagh resulted in 50 deaths. That was not a right to dissent. That was terror activity. Let us be very clear. Secondly, the issue is, while you are condemning him on TV, very good.
Well, that is your point of view, but the courts have rejected this point of view.
Courts have. That Shaheen Bagh was a grand conspiracy. UPA, they have denied bail to person after person. To say Shaheen Bagh riots were not terror was just dissent in which 50 people died, in which that IB officer was butchered to death. To say that is shameless on your part, but I'm not surprised. You will take that view even though 50 people died in India. But let me come to the bigger point here. bigger point here is,
That
when
was
you
a-
take
that was a
stand, when you,
conspiracy.
let me finish.
More than 300 people has been granted bail by the Delhi court, which that was a communal right. That was
57 people dying in the Delhi riots
that was
is of
conspired
no
by the radical
consequence to you.
organization,
And you are
and they are
57
under the
people
scanner
dying
of
in
the
the
court.
Delhi riots is of no consequence to you.
What is surprising? What is surprising? Kashmiri Pandits were butchered, genocide happened, and they have never called it a crime.
But
So
I
why
am
would
not
they call
selective
Delhi a crime?
like
That's
giving
okay.
only one or
But
two
let us
names.
come to the relevant
I
point. That's
will
okay.
count
They
the
will never
total
admit
number
it.
without
50 people being dead if for you is a right to
identifying
protest,
their religion.
then that is not a right to protest, that's a terror attack.
One or two names. I will quote the number, the 50. They are the Indians. They are not
What happened
Hindus, they are not
to
Muslims.
that young IB
So
officer? That
any
was
right is an
butchery and
unfortunate thing,
terrorism.
and the
What happened to
perpetrator
those
must be
50
brought to
And
justice.
what
in
happened in
Delhi
the
is
schools?
terrorism.
What
That
happened
is the
in the
butchery.
schools?
I told you who are the
Who
butchers
was
in the
the
country.
used as
I have
weapons?
well
Was that
identified
dissent?
all those butchers in the
When
country.
children
I
from the
named the
schools,
organization.
some
I named
children
the
were
individuals.
removed and others were targeted, was that an expression of dissent? Dr. Rahmani, I want to ask you this tonight. And I also want to ask you, when on the issue of hijab, you go against Dr. Ambedkar, when on the issue of hijab, you actually provoke children to give up their kitab only because they are fighting for hijab, which doesn't even find a mention in the Quran. The Quran begins with Iqra, which is education, but that is of no concern to you. Hijab is of a bigger concern to you. Dr. Sudhanshu Trivedi, what does this signify? What does this demonstrate?
No, but fortunately, Navika, you have
will
very well
respond to this.
said when you quote Iqra, Sudhanshu, this 10 seconds. The Muslim community has proved that under various odds, they have improved their educational status after the 1980 onwards, and that's why they are a radical organization who blame them for the education jihad and economic jihad. Whenever we try to come out in the national mainstream, they are blaming us for the bringing out the education
You are
jihad.
preventing
Even
them from
RSS
coming in
chief,
the national
he
mainstream,
said,
Dr.
he's on
Sudhanshu
record saying-
Trivedi. Now that's the latest charge on you.
Again, I have said this several times. Again, I am repeating, sir. If you are talking about those who are stopping in the national mainstream, you know which community is the most educated community in India? It is the Zoroastrians. It is 0.1% of the minority. The most prosperous community of India is again a minority. It is Jain, which is 1% of the minority. Christians are having a very good percentage of education. Most entrepreneur community of India is again a minority. It is Sikh, 1.8% of the minority. If all minorities, 0.1, 1%, 1.8, 2 are having enormous opportunities, only the 16%, 18% are not having the opportunity. Sir, this is a time to think. Again, I would like to ask, on this hijab controversy, all these young Muslim girls, can they show their previous social media profiles with hijab? The answer is categorically no. Most of them were having their photos in the jeans and top, and suddenly they become hijab. And again, I would like to put forth just one fact. I will take the name of 5 head of the states, women head of the states of the Muslim countries. जिसमें एक का नाम बताइए, एक की फोटो बताइएगा जो हिजाब में हो. बेनजीर भुट्टो पाकिस्तान, बेगम खालिदा जिया शेख हसीना of बांग्लादेश, मेघावती सुकार्णो पुत्री of
Well, these are the shackles only some vested groups in India wants to propagate. And this is the pit that we seem to be falling into, a pit that is being exploited by the hidden hand outside of India. And the hidden hand has been exposed today. Al-Qaeda, Al-Zawahiri, who heads an organization of global terror which can exploit a situation like this. So who in India is falling for this propaganda? Who is falling and becoming part of this hidden hand that wants India to stay where it is, in fact deteriorate and not move forward? Think about it, ladies and gentlemen, as I wrap up debate number 1 and thank my panelists tonight. On